Welcome to another episode of Modern Block. Thank you for joining me today. So I thought I'd let the World Cup kick off. I enjoyed watching the opening ceremony today. Quite beautiful. I'll play some scenes down below. Really just showing the heritage of Japanese rugby. And it's nice to see. Always fun to get the world in union. Gave me shivers, and it's just finally great to see the moment arrive. The pinnacle of the last 4 years, and really the greatest stage for rugby. It was quite a moment, and I think for New Zealand fans also, to see Richie handing over the cup, placing it down on the tournament, and then having that little bit of a look back. I'll put some videos at it. I think it's pretty much been his baby for the last 8 years, and deservedly so. So let's see if New Zealand brings it home again, or if another team can take it. But it was really great to see the opening ceremony, and obviously the first game. So before we get into the everything, I just want to say please comment, share, subscribe, like, and yes, put your opinions down below. So just before I get into the South African and New Zealand game for tomorrow, I want to talk a little bit about the Japan-Russia game, as I want to give a shout out to Russia. I've been probably the first person to write them off, and what a performance. Obviously, you could see fitness started to get to them about the 30 minutes, but I mean, halftime score of 12-7, very respectable, very strong game. I felt like they had dominant performance, really strength, a lot of strength, some great ball stealers. I was really impressed by the ball stealing, good fly-off tactics. Unfortunately, fitness letting them down. The open play, Japanese finally got them to start opening the game in the second half, and they did definitely get more tries. But in the same time, they kept in there. They really pushed. The Japanese just achieved their goal of a bonus point, with the final score being 30-10. And quite a shocking performance from Japanese fly-half there. And I think that obviously the subbing of him later in the 60th minute, I think, helped the Japanese a lot. So something they definitely need to review, as a couple of missed kicks, really a lot of shaky nerves, I think, both sides. Russia obviously came to give it their all. Japan, I think, maybe a little bit complacent in the game, and I think that would have been quite sad to see the World Cup not go their way the first game, although that not a massively deserved win, in my opinion. They let a lot of play on the things, and I don't think we haven't seen everything from the Japanese side. So yeah, let's get into my big game of the weekend. But obviously I'll be doing some preview videos for other games. But let's get into the South Africa-New Zealand game. So the South Africa-New Zealand game, very interesting. The teams have been announced now. We can see Hansen has decided he's going to go for his two-player maker strategy. The Richie at 10 and Beauden Barrett at 15. And a lot of people have always repeated this, that Beauden Barrett is the best player in the world. Not necessarily the best fly-off, but the best player. So I guess Hansen's decided, he's listened to some fans and decided, well, let's see if he really is. And is putting him at another position, 15. And it's quite interesting. I think it possibly also has been forced by the fact that Ben Smith has not had the greatest season. And I think it's almost pushed him to try out some different things. But to be fair, with players of that caliber, you can pretty much put any player in any position and there'll still be a world-class squad. So I don't think, in my opinion, it's going to be interesting to see if the strategy plays off. It does it actually work? Because I felt like it didn't perfectly work, especially against South Africa, as we were easily able to shut down Barrett's attack, and Richie Mwanga had a hard time when his forward pack was moving backwards. And that's, I think, where a lot of this is going to go for. So before I get into kind of like how I want the game to go, obviously some big decisions, as I said, the Richie, that you've got the good news on the bench, but Crotty and Leonard Brown being in the centres. The wings are sitting. Ben Smith, obviously, as I said, was on the bench for this. So your wings are Riccioni also, sorry, off the team. Interesting enough, I think he's definitely going for form here. So Sevu, Reese, and Bridge sitting there at wing. Very interesting choice. I think it makes sense going more for. I think it does also. It's an interesting thing, and I'll discuss it later. But for now, it shows form is being rewarded here by Hansen, and I think that's fair. And it's just going to be a case of, can these guys play themselves into the rest of the World Cup going forward, or can Riccioni play himself back into the scoring 23? I don't think there's any niggles. I think it's just that Sonny Bill, after some just debates that he wasn't going to play, he was going to be sent home, is on the match day 23. So I think that the idea being that both Ben Smith and Sonny Bill bringing in a little bit of experience and quality at the end of the game. Both strategy I think both teams are taking on. So I'll get into it. On the South African side, we have the Kitshoff and Malherbe combination in the front row with Marks. The rest of the lineup is pretty similar, only really being that Khaleesi was brought in. You've got a lot of great bench options. The centre pairing we've brought in is the Islander and with Jesse Kriel and Frans Steyn riding the bench. I think that's makes sense to me. It's been the strategy we've played the most, and it is something that we're starting to build a lot of experience on. Similarly, on the wings, starting to build continuity with the same lineup. I think that's a good thing, and it's one of the first times we've actually had almost a perfect same lineup for a long time. So the continuity of the team is essential here. Mapimpi, obviously some people arguing the Nkosi side of things. I think on the other side, Colby's played himself into, they've got a ticket to every game of the tournament as long as he stays fit. Mapimpi is going to have to definitely show on his defensive side. But at the same time, I think if he gets a little bit of space, he will really be good at exploiting it. So both, I think, good options. Willie Leroux is going to be taking on Beauden Barrett. I think both, that's a massive matchup, as Willie Leroux has had the greatest season, but his experience and his understanding, especially in the wet weather, should be great, considering he's had quite a lot of experience playing overseas. Something that I think will hopefully help him. So let's get into the matchups. The fact that we've got a less experienced wing pairing on the New Zealand side, not as less experienced as the South African side, but still less experienced, does bode well maybe for South Africa, as it gives, as that's something that a lot of people are questioning, that the experience of the wings could mean that they could get pulled in or drawn. But let's see, maybe, as I can see there, I don't think it's going to be as much of an issue, and I think Rossi has planned for that. Very interesting choices there. Other one where I think it's going to be a good big question mark is Moody for New Zealand hasn't had the strongest scrum of the year. No Owen Franks. So it's gonna come down to, can the Kitshoff and Malherbe pairing, Malherbe also not having a great scrumming year, can they actually get the penalties and scrum them over as we need? The team with the moving forward pack here should most likely will win the game, considering that I think there's going to be a lot of scrums, a lot of drop balls due to the rain. Both of these teams are going to be targeting a position, but I think South Africa might have the slight upper hand in the scrumming area, where New Zealand might have the upper hand in the open play. On the other side, I've had a couple of question marks on whether Jesse Kriel is the best option to be brought in. I think it is something a lot of people think, as I do think he can often get exposed. He isn't as big, and he definitely can sometimes fall off tackles a little bit more than other people. But at the same time, the Islander isn't my favourite either. So it's question marks there, but I think it makes sense that we've got them on the bench. Herschel Yankees obviously replacing for Faf, but with Jesse Kriel and Frans Steyn on the bench, you can pretty much cover any position in the back line, which is really why we've gone for a huge amount of forwards in our bench, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Overall, it's going to there are so many points where this game can be won or lost for either side. Which game can scrum better? Can Marks and Mostert really find each other in the lineouts? If they can, and I find that they're probably the best pairing we've got in the tournament, I think that that's going to be essential and will really help, as I've got a feeling we're going to be going for a lot of lineouts to try and get a little bit of tries in there. But where this game is going to turn on its head, and I can see it just by the selections, is in the 60 to 80 minutes. New Zealand has famously always been the team to play 80, and they've really been good in those last 20 minutes. Something that I think Rassie is really has taken into account and is pretty much basing his whole strategy on. The team you've got in the field now is a very strong but solid team. It's a solid team. I don't think there's a lot of X-factor players. Obviously some there and there, but the X factor is not massively there. It's more about dominating the team, keeping the score low, and building possession. Building territory actually. Once that the game opens up in the last 20 minutes, I've got a feeling RWC Snyman, your Jesse Kriel, your Frans Steyn are definitely going to be players that is going to be perfect to put on the field to expose those gaps. RWC Snyman is outstanding at giving players space and offloading, which is going to be essential. On the other side, New Zealand is going to also be going for a similar strategy on the fact that they've got Goodhue and your Ben Smith and your now it escapes me, Sonnyville Williams on their side. Also a lot of experience, a lot of tactical know-how. Both teams are going to try and cut the game up in the last 20 minutes, and that's going to be where this game is made or broken. So yeah, I think that's kind of my opinions. Do you feel that the New Zealand pairing of Richie and Bo Bowden is the right choice? Do you feel that it's Ricky only not being in the squad is the right idea? On the South African side, should we have started with Nkanya and Beast? I know that Nkanya might have been a little bit of niggles. He wasn't really in Japan for most of the time, so maybe that's why. And obviously, what is the centre combination for South Africa? Let me know down below. Comment, share, like. Let's get the conversation flowing, guys. Thanks.